we can move directly into the program. I just wanted to let people know I have about an hour total because I have another call after 1 hour. But I just wanted to first of all thank the organizers for uh, you know uh, bringing me here. The topic is where is India going? I would love to respond to specific questions. Uh, you know, uh, but just to give you an overview, my work, which is mainly in books, the videos are sort of light versions, but I've covered, uh, topic concerning India both from a spiritual, religious point of view, from a historical point of view, cultural point of view, from a political point of view. My most recent book on artificial intelligence covers the future in terms of technology, AI and technology, how it's shaping the future. I've looked at the geopolitics, especially concerned about the China Pakistan axis. I've been concerned for a long time. Uh, 30 years ago, I was writing on the Himalayan rivers could be gone one day, with China encroaching. At that time, it was considered sensational and conspiracy theory, and people accusing me of raising these issues because they did not understand them. And so now, of course, we are seeing the reality that these are real issues. So I can cover a large range of topics, and it depends on what the interest of the group is. But to give you a little thesis, I feel that there are several areas where, as a patriotic Indian person very interested in Dharma and in the future of India, I'm very concerned about the lack of understanding and lack of interest on the part of Indian leaders and Indian thinkers on certain matters. I think they've underestimated the power of China, and overestimated that USA will come and help under the Quad and things like that. I respectfully disagree because I think US will not put troops on the ground. US sometimes goes through a period of wanting to intervene, and then it goes through a period of wanting to withdraw. For 10, 20 years, it doesn't intervene, and then it goes through another period of wanting to intervene. So, you saw the after the Second World War, there was a lot of intervention during the war with Japan, Korea, etc. And then US withdrew to then it got involved in the Vietnam War. Then after being burnt, it withdrew and for many many years did not want to get involved. Then it started getting involved in the Iraq War and so on. So now it is, after many years of intervention in places like Iraq and Afghanistan, it's withdrawn again. So I don't think India should expect that Americans will come and help, other than selling weapons and good weapons, but very expensive weapons. So this business that we have this Quad and US will help us for the Quad is not for mountain warfare, troops on the ground. It's not for the land. It's more of an ocean sea naval kind of an alliance, and it's not going to help India with Pakistan being very, I mean, China being very aggressive. I'm also concerned that I feel that in this decade, China will take over Nepal. Not directly necessarily, but just install a puppet regime and put in their military, and just like sort of Tibet, it will become another Chinese colony, and so the border with China will more than double, because Nepal is right now a neutral buffer, and the Nepal border is right in the Ganges plain. It is There's no mountains even protecting. It's right where where in UP and all these northern states, the Nepal border, if it became the new China border, it will be devastating. India doesn't have any defenses there. And you have to know that China is extremely good at building infrastructure. The infrastructure it is able to build, very few Western countries have the capacity to build that much infrastructure so quickly, especially in mountain areas. And so right now they're building infrastructure in the Ladakh area and in the Arunachal Pradesh front, where they can bring in troops in 3 hours from Lasha and from other places in Tibet. They can bring in lakhs of troops within 3 hours, and so this kind of capacity will also happen with capability to bring such levels of troops in Nepal. So I see that the front, the border with China is going to become more and more tense. India will drain more and more money to try and protect it. There are many, you know, geographical advantages that the Chinese have. They operate from height because Tibet is at a height, and we are on the plains, and we have to go to the heights to reach that front and acclimatize our soldiers for a month, because when you go up to a height, you can't just start fighting the next day. So there are a lot of these problems, and I also feel that the technology, I've mentioned this in my artificial intelligence book, the new technologies are things that India is not at par. India is way behind both US and China, and China is giving these technologies rapidly to Pakistan also. So I feel that that's a very solid threat that India has, which India has not fully faced up to. And some of the some of the counter arguments I read in the social media are very naive, very silly, kind of, making arguments which are not based on substance or facts, but more about ego and emotions. That's a very big concern of mine. I'm also writing a new book, which I don't want to discuss details today, but this book should be ready by January to be printed. And this book will show new threats, not like the ones in my previous book, Breaking India, but completely new threats, much more dangerous than Breaking India. And these threats are, the people in India are not interested in listening to these threats. Some of them are involving, some of them are involving our own leaders, our own people who ought to be on our side in our country, uh, actually are helping, being in alliance with opposing side. So that's another topic I can talk about. So I can also talk about the myths that we have soft power. Soft power is not the same thing as culture. So just because we have, say, yoga and other people are doing yoga, doesn't mean that that's soft power. Soft power would mean that we are able to use it to convince people to vote for us, to support us in political matters. But how many people are going to support India on political matters because they are practicing yoga? I mean, these are two separate things. So we have to uh, understand how soft power works. And just because someone eats your food or likes your songs and all, doesn't mean that you have soft power over them. Uh, at the same time, I also want to give some encouraging remarks. India, in the new government, has made a lot of progress. The new government has done in the last few years what the previous government did not do, in 50, 60 years. And so, but the point is, we're starting very late. The enemies have got a big head start. In 1950, India and China were at par. China was not ahead of us. And now the lead is so huge, it's not very easy to catch up. Uh, so it's not the fault of the current government, because they inherited all these problems. These problems happened over a long period of time. And whether India can catch up remains to be seen, but I have some doubts. So, but this is not a problem. This is not being blamed on the current government. They are doing a pretty good job. Uh, of course, there are areas I'm not satisfied with, but overall, I think they are doing a good job. So, I think with that, I should stop and maybe take some questions. What do you think?
Sure, Rajivji. Before moving into the questions, we are also joined by TG Mohan Das sir. TG Mohan Das sir is a well-known orator, media personality, and a lawyer, and he's a guide and philosopher of Pathrika. So, with your permission, I would like to go to him for his comments on this today's topic. Before we moving
Sure,
into the question, a brief comment, sir. TG
sure.
sir.
Yeah, see, we have Mr. Rajiv Malhotra as our chief guest today. I will not barge into his time, and his time is also very precious. And people have assembled to listen to him, not to me. So it will be inappropriate for me to make comments or anything. Straight away, let us go to questions from audience. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, teacher sir. Before moving into the audience, to establish a base, Rajiji, there are a few questions from moderators panel, with your permission.
Sure, sure. No, no, go ahead. You don't need my permission. Just keep asking questions.
All right. So, Rajiji, before coming to the artificial intelligence, your new book, I would like to go back to a little bit behind. That is, you have been an art you have been criticizing Wendy Donier for a very long time for that term Indology, and you have coined that Swadeshi Indology should be perpetuated. Can you expand a little bit on Indology, the difference between Swadeshi Indology and Indology?
So, Indology was started by Europeans to study India during colonial times. And one of the books I'm writing, which will come later, is The History of Indology, because nobody has ever written a book on the history of Indology before. And this Indology is a very complex history. It has the German people in it with a different agenda, British people with a different agenda, French people with a different agenda. There were also Russian Indologists. So there were Indologists of various kinds. And then, most people don't know that besides the East India Company and British East India Company and French East India Company, there was also a Swedish East India Company, a Danish East India Company, a Dutch East India Company. There was also Portuguese. They were not called East India Company or something else, but they were effectively East India Company. So there are, we're finding there are 6, 7 different European countries all competing for trade with India. And part of the understanding, part of the job of trading and ruling and conquering is, you want to understand the society. It's a complex society, learned society. When the Portuguese arrived, they found that unlike their encounter with the Native Americans and Africans, who did not have a learned tradition, they just had to have physical hard power, brute force to defeat them. In the case of Indians, they found that there was very profound learning tradition, and converting them was not so easy. They had to also understand the Indian point of view. So they started this study of India, both from a Christian point of view and from a secular point of view, from a business community point of view, from a philosophical point of view, from how to rule over them. Dharma Shastra, they started studying all these things. And so the study of Indology went through many phases, as the Europeans became sophisticated. There was a period called Orientalism when the Sanskrit scholars of Europe were actually in love with India, because they thought that all this came from Europe, this Aryan theory and so on. So they felt that praising Sanskrit would be like praising their own ancestral heritage of Europe. That's what they believed. So we can't be fooled that they were praising Sanskrit because they loved us. They were praising Sanskrit because they thought it's theirs. And a lot of our people foolishly think that these European Orientalists, because they were praising Sanskrit and Sanskrit texts and all that, they love us. They have nothing to do with loving us. They thought these texts were brought by European Aryans. Uh, so that was one part of Indology. Another part was the people who were looking at separating the origins of Sanskrit and Aryans and all that from the later developments, which they felt were the caste system and negative things in India. And they wanted to create divides among the castes and divides among Hindus and Muslims and so on, in order to convert them and rule over them. So Indology was a intellectual arm of the empire. You can say it was a think tank of the empire and the think tank of the church. It served a very important purpose for them. They were doing Purva Paksha on us. We have a system called Purva Paksha to study the opposing side, but we forgot to do Purva Paksha on them. It's very interesting. In the ancient times, Adi Shankara was great in Purva Paksha. When you study Adi Shankara, that's what you study. How he was debating opponents, he was understanding their point of view, whether it was, the Mimamsika, the earlier Mimamsika, whether it was the Charvaks, whether it was the Buddhists, whoever he would debate with them. But then, when later on, when the Muslims came, we did not do Purv Paksha of them. There is no great tradition of, our acharyas doing Purv Paksha with Muslims. So we did not understand them. We did not really fully understand their psychology. Who are they? Where are they coming from? What is their agenda? What do they believe? What are their strengths and weaknesses? How to deal with them. We did not take them seriously. We were very arrogant. and therefore they enslaved us because they understood us better than we understood them. Same can be said of Europeans later. When the Europeans came, we did not take on seriously, who are these people? How are they divided amongst themselves? Can we, like they are dividing us, can we also divide them against each other? What are their vulnerabilities? What do they want? We did not know that. So we for 1,000 years we did not do Purva Paksha of colonizers, whether they were Middle Eastern, Islamic type people, or whether they were European type people. We were too arrogant, and I think that with this kind of a withdrawal of this is a Brahmin job, to do all this. The withdrawal of the Brahmins into sort of a cave, and going introverted out of fear or out of laziness or whatever, was a very costly mistake we made, because not understanding other people means you are vulnerable. Even today, I don't think our thinkers properly understand China. I think we understand China based on what's written in the news, and whatever CIA discloses, because they're doing a lot of studies on China and keeping track of China. So some of it filters out, leaks out, so India gets to know. Other than that, we find out about China after it happens. When they actually do something, then we suddenly realize what they are doing, even though they were planning for 10 years. Okay, so this Purva Paksha is a very big weakness of our people. And to understand Indology, you have to understand that it was Europeans' system of Purva Paksha of us. Now, we internalized their Indology and we started seeing ourselves in that way. They had a caste idea about us. We incorporated it into our constitution. They had introduced English language. We incorporated that as the system. Their method of ruling, governance, they had a civil service, we call it IAS today, same kind of UPSC approach. Many of our institutions today are basically colonial institutions run by brown people. That's all. Colonial style. Now this is the reason China is so different, because China, and I will show you in the next book I'm putting out, I'm doing a big contrast between India and China to show this very point, that China is very proud of being non-Western in its core, in its DNA. And the kind of educational policy they have is so different from ours. The way they are training their administrators is so different from ours. Their style of governance is so different from ours. And they are not bothered by what the West thinks of them. We are totally concerned about what the West thinks of us. Totally, always worrying about what will they say. Will they invite me? Will I be considered good? The top people are worried they'll get Nobel Prize or not Nobel Prize. The lower level people are worried about whether their peers in the West will think well of them, and so on. And even the lower level than that think of defining themselves with fashions and sort of the symbolism of the West. So I feel that the Indology created a lot of harm because it colonized us, made us think a certain way. And then, after World War II, Americans took over from Europe and became the imperial power, which used to be the Europeans. And then they started what they call South Asian studies, which is the American version of Indology. So it's still Indology, but they call it differently. And the US government created Title VI grants. Title VI is a code of the US law under which American universities can get a grant to do South Asian studies. So they set up several centers of South Asian studies. Previously, it used to be white students, white professors, and white students. That was the South Asian study, just like Indology. Then, gradually, they brought in Indian leftists to South Asian studies. A lot of people came from JNU type places, historians, Romila Thapar students, social scientists, anthropologists, these kind of people came. And they took the Western lens, the Western approach to India and continued it. But now you had brown skin scholars doing this kind of work. The students were still whites mainly. But then in the last 20 years, things changed because a large number of Indian students started coming, and also the second generation of Indians, because now Indians are a established community in the US, so there are a large number of children. Uh, so these people started coming, and so now South Asian studies is full of Indian people. people of Indian origin. Either they are foreign from India or they are second generation. So the student community in South Asian studies is Indian largely, and the faculty is both white people and Indians. And now what you have is South Asian studies spinning the same breaking India logic, Hindu phobia logic. But now, it's not the Wendy Doniger, but her students, which include a lot of Indians also, and many others. So there is now an alliance between the Indian left in places like JNU and uh, Ashoka University, Kriya University, which is started in Bangalore, KREA, TIS in Bombay, like that. There are such. You now find this kind of disease has spread into IITs also. IIT Madras is a big center for this, and Delhi University also. It's not just JNU. There's Jamia Millia. All these. There's a large number of Indian universities that are populated with with the leftist, global leftist, scholars, and they are in total. This whole thing is a network. They're totally connected with the European and American institutions of this kind. So India studies, or Indology, as one may call it, uh, is continues to be of this kind. Indian government don't really know this. They don't want to know this. I've given so many presentations. I have given presentations to the Ministry of External Affairs, to the head of ICCR. Before Sahasra Buddhe became the head of ICCR, he's a wonderful man. I've met him a few times. Before that was Dr. Lokesh Chandra, another person I knew very well. In fact, we gave Dr. Lokesh Chandra the Lifetime Achievement Award of Infinity Foundation, back in the 90s. So I've known all these people, tried to encourage them to listen to us. We have a lot to say about what's going on in Indology and how to counter it. But there hasn't been much interest. There hasn't been much interest. Uh, they're taking the easy way out. They want to be in the good books. They want to be popular. They want to go and, I'll give you an example. Recently, there was this dismantling Hindutva conference organized with 1,000 scholars from US, Europe, and India supporting it, and it was all few days of India bashing and Hindu bashing. And the one of the centers was Rutgers University. I discovered that Rutgers University had a grant from Ministry of External Affairs (ICCR) to set up an India chair, and I got a picture, a photograph of the Indian Consul General in New York signing this MOU with the Vice President of Rutgers University to set up India chair with Indian money. And so I said, here is a university which is bashing us, and we have set up an India chair. So what is going on? How come the India chair could not counter it? How come the India chair could not negotiate and make a difference? And why doesn't it now make a statement? Why not? So I went public after talking to some people privately, and they were not bothered. So I started tweeting. I even contacted Vinay Sahasrabudhe, who's the head of this ICCR, and he confirmed that yeah, we set up this India chair, but it is good because we will promote scholars and all that. He just washed his hands off of it. He did not want to get involved. So I'm giving you examples of how Indology started with the British, continued by the Americans, and now in the hands of brown skinned people continues to be pretty nasty for our tradition. Compare this with China studies. China is also, China controls China studies. All the major journals of China studies are from China in Mandarin. The people who are on the editorial board are all Chinese, very patriotic. Government selects them. Chinese industrialists sponsor and fund China studies from a patriotic point of view. None of this is true of our case. Our case, our people are funding government also, business also. They're funding things that are not friendly to us but opposed to us. So we are in trouble because we've lost. Not only we lost the discourse, the battle for ideas and the battle for discourse about India, and that has played in the NCRT books also. But it is now Indians doing it. You see, it is now Indians doing it. It is now our own brown skinned people doing it. So I don't see any excuse for it. I don't believe this that, oh, we'll do it next year. The government is new. They will do it in another 2 months or 3 months. I mean, I don't see this happening. And when I haven't been to India for 2 months, 2 years due to COVID, but I used to come 4 times a year. So I'm very, very familiar with the Delhi scene, the politics, the different ministries. I've visited all of them more than enough times. Uh, and I'm also kind of frustrated that they're not able to use ideas and talent from outside. And I'm an outsider to the government, and I'm an outsider to the Sangh, and I'm an outsider to the whole, Delhi system and establishment. But I'm totally intellectually committed to my culture, and I've given my more than half of my adult life, the last almost 30 years, to do this on a full time, and given my tan, man, dhan, whatever I have to this cause. I don't know what else I could do. But the government wants to limit its interest, limit its team to insiders, people that are either Shaka products. That's fine. It's good that there are a lot of people who are Shaka products, but I'm not a Shaka product. But that doesn't mean I cannot help. Or people who are into their politics and into their orbit and under part of their system. So what it means is that India keeps making mistakes. India keeps making mistakes, strategic mistakes, and therefore there's a huge case to be made that Indology needs to be overhauled. Indology, the study of India, needs to be refined and completely redefined. Everything from higher level education and research all the way down to NCRT books and influence on media and all of that should be changed. So that is why we started Swadeshi Indology as our humble contribution. We're not claiming that we can change the world and do anything big. We are saying that our humble contribution will only improve, to some extent. It will make some incremental improvements, and that's all we can achieve. And that's fine. We live with whatever we can do. And so that's kind of my answer on what is Indology and what is Swadeshi Indology.
Thank you, Rajiv ji. Rajiv ji, that brings me to my next question. Let's forget the government and administration side for a little bit of time and talk about your book, Being Different, an Indian challenge to the Western universalism. My question is about Western universalism. That is, has this Western Indology concept contributed and aided our own leftist historians and intellects in contributing to this or equating our dharma to the Western universalism concept without giving too much away from your book? Can you expand on that a bit for the sake of our audience?
Yeah, yeah. So that's a good question. So Western universalism basically means that the history of the West and their philosophy, their experiences, they have formulated a kind of a global system of thought, and they have said that this is something we can export to the whole world. So whatever is their idea of world history, whatever are their philosophies, whatever are their religions, whatever is their social sciences, whatever is their political science, all of this, all the social sciences and humanities, as seen from the Western perspective, based on their history, based on their internal politics and internal conflicts and clashes and so on, whatever they have formulated, you might say their Siddhanta, like we have our Siddhanta and we have our Mimamsa and we have our Shastras. So they have theirs. Uh, they have, because they colonized, they had the power over the whole world. So they spread their knowledge system, the Western knowledge system, and made it universal. So everybody in the world studies that. The United Nations conventions, the international treaties, even the concept of what is a nation state is as per their definition. What is the concept of a nation state? So that is Western universalism. It covers all the different domains. It covers the law. Much of Indian law is like that, also based on that. Now, they have been digesting other cultures, including India, including Europe, including Native American cultures, pagan European cultures, Islamic cultures. They've been digesting. Digestion means that a predator comes and uh, consumes, eats up, prey, and digests whatever he wants, and whatever he doesn't want, he will excrete it. He will throw it out. So whatever is nutritious, he will keep, and he will make it part of his body and become stronger. And whatever he doesn't like or will not fit, will not be compatible, will be allergic to him, he throws it out. So they've digested many systems and not acknowledge that the idea of West is itself based on digesting so many systems. And I'm writing multiple volumes on this. Many volumes I have under development for 20-25 years now, and I need to start bringing them out quickly. But digestion of India, it's a lot of linguistic digestion from Sanskrit, which helped the Europeans make grammars for their languages. A lot of philosophical ideas, a lot of ideas of meditation and the Adhyatma Vidya, what I call inner sciences, a lot of ideas of medicine, and so on. Many things. Even botany, large parts of botany came out of the Dutch and the Danish trading companies taking a lot of plants out of India back. Uh, and the strange thing is that our history books don't even acknowledge the debt, the Western debt to India in terms of developing their knowledge systems. So I am doing it in my own way, whatever I can, and I hope I'm able to publish this. I have to publish 20 volumes to get all this knowledge out. And I've been working on it for a long time. And now I'm 71 years old. So I don't want to publish a half substandard product. So I'm doing my best to get as many of these things out as possible. So the Western universalism is a combination of internal things within the West and external things they've digested. So the advantage of being a world conqueror is you get to digest all the good things about other people and call it your own. And that's Western universalism. And so what I wanted to show in this book, Being Different, is how we are different from Western universalism. How the each of the chapters is a separate topic of difference. And one of those chapters I turned into a recent book called Sanskrit Non-Translatables. And that's a chapter in my book, Being Different. There's a chapter called Sanskrit Non-Translatables. Now it's a whole separate book I made. And this talks about how certain Sanskrit words have no equivalent word in English. And when you translate it, you're making a mistake. You're misguiding people. You are distorting its meaning, and you're helping the idea get digested into Western universalism. So it's better to preserve the Sanskrit word. Even if you're speaking in English, you should use the Sanskrit word for those kind of ideas. So that's an example of response to Western universalism through Sanskrit non-translatables. Like that, there are about 5 very big ideas of in that book, Being Different, and I consider it to be the deepest book I wrote so far. But I'm writing a few others that will be very, very new and take the ideas even further.
Uh, Thank you, Rajivji. Rajivji, that we will come to Sanskrit non-translatables in a bit. But the term that you coined, the digesting other civilizations, that is a very interesting concept. It has been touched by various authors, but not in such a comprehensive manner. Can you expand a bit on this digesting other civilization? That is, you said keeping what is nutritional for the body and excreting what is not. So,
See, the thing is that sometimes I first put a book out and then talk about it. But sometimes the book is taking long, so I start talking about it before the book comes out. So digestion is one of those topics I've been talking about for 25-30 years. And so a lot of other writers and speakers have taken a superficial copy of it and start talking about it, and which is why you are saying that a lot of people have mentioned it. But the point is not to just give an example here and a superficial idea here and there. The point is to really study it very deeply, study it in such a deep way that you really mastered the whole subject. And after mastering the whole subject, you can give a very comprehensive history of it, very comprehensive philosophy behind it, why they do it, who does it, what's in it for them. So my work on digestion is a multi-volume work, and basically, I'm showing that there is digestion all the time going on between civilizations when they meet each other, even inside a country. The Sanskrit speakers were digesting local languages, and the local languages were incorporating Sanskrit grammar. So it's a two-way street. For instance, Kannada took Sanskrit grammar and turned it and created the Kannada grammar. And conversely, a lot of words went to Sanskrit. So you will see that ideas that are from very local tradition, from a local community, they have some words, they have some ideas, they have some philosophies, maybe they have deities, they have symbols, uh, and these get digested into a bigger kind of a system, a bigger, they're part of an ecosystem, and they get sanskritized, and so this dynamic exists even within India. Okay, so it's not just between India and Europe or something. It exists even within India. It exists even within the Middle East, because the Muslim Islam digested many old ideas from Middle East. There were so many, how they dress is not because of Islam, because they were dressing like that before also. And how they had four wives and all, these were, there was a lot of customs, and why they eat dates, because dates are grown there. And so now the Muslims think that there may be something very religious about it. But what is considered religious, not just necessarily anything new. It's because those religions digested the old things also, whatever they wanted to. Similarly, Christians digested so much out of pagans. They destroyed the pagan religions, but they picked up so many things out of them. So this digestion I'm explaining is a very universal phenomenon. The problem is when it happens between civilizations that are far removed, and one is more powerful than the other, then it is not done in a friendly way. The Chinese digested a lot of Buddhist thought and Sanskrit and many philosophies, but there was no aggression. There was no aggression. There was no hostility. It was not some kind of invasion. It was not like that. uh, so the idea was not that we are exporting this knowledge to get inside their house, and then subvert them and conquer them and all that, and appoint our governors and tax them. We never thought of that. uh, and so both sides in this, in the assimilation and transfer of knowledge from India to China, Japan, and so Mongolia, both sides, the donor and the recipient, were also doing it in a very friendly way. So there is a friendly way to do it, and then there is the destructive way to do it. And in the theory of digestion, I'm focusing on how it has been done in a destructive way, while I'm also well aware that it has a positive role, and it has been also done in a very friendly way and a very useful way. So both types of examples can be given, and one can look at it all over the world. In fact, the history of the West, I explain, the history of the West is a result of digestion. There was this Greek Empire and Roman Empire, and they were in conflict, and one of them defeated the other and digested it. Then Christianity came. Christianity came, and it got digested by the Romans. So all these digestions of each other, neighboring cultures and civilizations around the Mediterranean, north of the Mediterranean, south, and with the Eastern Mediterranean and the Western Mediterranean, they were all different cultures. They all kind of digesting each other, and some of them digesting Egypt and all Egyptian culture. This is what resulted in what became later known as the West. There was no such thing as West. I don't know if many of you know this, but in the ancient times, when they said Orient, they did not mean China or India. Orient meant Greece. Greece was the Orient, and the opposite was Occident. Today we think West is called Occident and East is called Orient. But in those days, Occident meant the Roman Empire and Orient meant the Greek Empire. So these ideas are very old. The principles that I'm using are, I'm taking very old things and giving and applying them in a new context. That's all I'm doing. I'm not inventing any new term. I'm simply, nor am I inventing a new phenomenon. I'm taking my insights gained from different parts of the world, because I study a lot of histories and philosophies and sciences from various places, and then I'm applying these ideas to what's happened to India. So what is novel is bringing these lenses to apply to India, but the lenses have existed long before me. I hope it's helpful to say this.
Yes, that is very clearly defined, Rajivji. And that brings me to my next question. The reason I started on digestion was that this digestion process, as you said, it happens in Middle East, the Muslim culture also, and internally in India also, it has happened in a very friendly way. But that friendly way has affected us in a negative way, uh, per my limited reading. The reason why I'm saying this is that let's consider a legal term, the equivalent of power of attorney. It is Muktarnama. There is no Sanskrit or regional language equivalent to that. It is called Muktarnama. But hasn't that digestion, friendly digestion, affected us? And the unfriendly digestion oppressed us? What is your take on that?
Yeah, yeah, that definitely. I think uh, friendly or unfriendly digestion can also be colonial agenda. You could make a very friendly move and convince the other person to adopt your idea, your universalism, your paradigm, and he adopts it, and you incentivize him. This is what the foreign grants are doing to the Indian, knowledge systems all the time. And in the process, you colonize them. So, so you might say Google is colonizing us today. Google, and I mean it. Google is colonizing us today. Facebook is colonizing us today. Microsoft Word and Office and all that colonizing us today. We are no longer developing our own intellectual property. We have the one of the world's largest armies of scholars. I mean, I would say techies, software people. India is one of the largest number of software people in the world, but we are one of the poorest in terms of intellectual property and patents and copyrights and on these things. uh, this is what I pointed out in my book on artificial intelligence, that the whole strategy of artificial intelligence promoted by Niti Aayog is wrong. I've had big fights with them, and they're unhappy that I'm criticizing them. But I've talked to them privately. They don't listen. Now I've gone public. So what else can I do? And also NASCOM and FICCI and all these different Indian groups that are promoting software and technology. They are promoting that the future of India's artificial intelligence is to train people and rent them out. That's what they are saying. They basically want to train Indians to become coolies, tech coolies. So I say that we are not Vishwa Guru, we are becoming Vishwa Kuli. We are going to do the dirty work, the low level work, the kuli work, and all the benefits of the technology and intellectual property are owned by other people. So either the Indians have gone to H1B visa and all that to US and started working here and making a good salary and an income, we send it back home, we're very happy. uh, but the intellectual property belongs to the Western clients. Or if they're working in India, much of the work is the prestigious work. They want to work for Microsoft India, Google India, Facebook India, all of these kind of places. Again, it might be that the work is being done in India, but it's not being owned by India. It's being owned by the global client. So these are examples where this is kind of a very friendly knowledge transfer, knowledge development, but it is not in our interest because we do not have good strategic thinkers. We do not have people. This is what the job of Niti Aayog is. This is what the job of RSS as kind of a Rashtriya think tank. RSS is supposed to be doing this. This is what BJP should have in the PMO's office. They should have thinkers who are thinking of all this. This is what our academic people should be doing. I mean, there's no shortage of number of people who are working on ideas, but they are just not that good. So we have not, for instance, being able to counter this trend that our best brains are being used by foreigners to produce their intellectual property. This is basically what the point you are making. Actually, if you analyze it, it ends up there only. That whether it is friendly or not, the point is we are doing coolie work. We are the servants. We are helping the master develop his knowledge, and that's bad for us.
Thank you, Rajivji. Rajivji, that brings me back to the Western ideology. That is our intellectual apparatus. I am actually taking your words to raise this question. That is, our intellectual apparatus has been colonized, and has our education system, also academic system as a whole, also been colonized, so that we are proudly promoting this discourse of Western ideology, thus subverting the real India. or Bharat? Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, I don't know how many of you are familiar that recently there was this NCRT put out a book on, challenging the concept of male and female gender, and saying that uh, in schools, girls and boys' bathrooms should be all interchangeable and things like that. And promoting the whole language is all promoting the Western idea of LGBTQIA. Now, I have nothing against those people. I think that our culture is very friendly to those people. Those people of different genders and different lifestyles have always lived in India, and nobody persecuted them. Nobody went after them. There was no laws against them and all that. There was nothing saying they're evil and so forth. So the best thing is to leave it alone, let them be, and not make a big issue out of it, not create a conflict. But in the Western world, because the Bible was against them, and the Quran is against them, and there are all these injunctions that they have to be punished and eradicated and so on. So in the case of the Western system, they had to fight for rights, and they had to turn to all kind of civil unrest. So now they're exporting that kind of conflict to India, and that is what I don't like. So that's an example where uh, we can in the quest for westernizing, in the quest for being in the good books of other countries, we can actually copy bad ideas. Take smoking. Do you know that smoking became a mainstream thing in India under Muslim rule? This whole hookah culture, and very elitist people who are doing poetry, and in the ruler's palace, there are all these people sitting around doing their hookah and all that. It became part of being a very sophisticated person in the Islamic courts. It is Islam that made the smoking tradition. Tobacco, it was there in India. It's not like tobacco was not unknown. It was not a popular thing. It was not a pop culture. It was not a fashionable thing. So Muslims brought it and popularized it in India, and then of course the Western cigarette companies, all these cigarette companies, took it further to another level, and so now India is one of the highest consumers of cigarettes in the world, and tobacco in the world. So we've learned bad habits. There are plenty of good things we could learn from them. For instance, the work ethic, I find, is lacking in India. We could learn good work ethic, being punctual, being uh, direct and straightforward, and delivering on time, and whatever you agree, negotiate. That's what you do. Uh, Arguing straight with a straight bat. I mean, there are things like that. India would be a better place if it had some good qualities that we can learn from other countries. I mean, I in my businesses, I worked in more than 20 countries, and I understood their cultures very well, their work ethic very well. And I can tell you that while India has so much great stuff to offer, but it can also learn from others. So, we need to control what we learn, and not somebody else telling us, feeding us. We have to be so smart that we should say, okay, I'm going to pick up good things from them. Maybe they've developed semiconductors. I should build a semiconductor industry in India. Maybe this AI thing is good. I don't want to just train smart people and sell their brains. I want to bring the AI technology and the quantum computing and all these new machine learning kind of stuff, and build my own technology and have my own intellectual property. So if we were smart, we would be deciding what we want, how we want it, what to do with it, how to use it, and not be at the mercy of others deciding for us. So I think there is a kind of a follower mentality rather than leader mentality. Following others, they're deciding for us, like parents deciding for children, and so India has sort of become like that. That's the point that I want to make. That it's a case of dependency. Knowledge transfer is a great thing. Cultures can and do and will always learn from each other. The question is, who's calling the shots, under your terms or my terms? If I'm learning from you, you are learning from me. Am I learning under you, you are learning under me? Who's in charge? Who makes the decisions? That's the important thing. China picked up so much. It learned all this greatness of how they've risen is all learned from the Americans in the last 30 years. What a remarkable accomplishment. But they did not stop being Chinese. They did not give up their character. They believe in the Confucian thought. They believe in their country's greatness, and they want to be number one in the world now. They will be number one in the world. And so, without ceasing to be Chinese and true to themselves, they picked up all the whatever works from the Americans. They picked it up. Whatever they don't need, they don't want to pick it up. So, in a sense, the Chinese have digested the American industrial military. The Chinese have digested the American military industrial complex. They have, and made it into a Chinese thing and made it even better.
Thank you, Rajivji. Rajivji, that brings me to my next question. It's a basic question, actually. How do we, as citizens, educate our next generation to put it in simple terms, that our moksha is not same as the salvation, or our swarga is not same as Jannat? I hope you are getting my gist, where I'm getting
No,
to.
no. I mean,
Hmm.
I have argued against what I call the myth of sameness,
Yeah.
and criticized our gurus for that. And I think that's the fact that you are even asking the question is because for 25, 30 years I've been sticking my neck out and arguing against it, arguing against Ramakrishna Mission doing this, arguing against almost every guru. There's one very important guru in Bangalore area. He and his followers get very angry when I point it out. But I have no disrespect for him. I won't name him, but I have tremendous respect for him. However, I disagree when he says that yoga is not correlated, and is not caused by, not part of the Hindu paradigm, but is sort of like free for all. Because I think he doesn't understand to do yoga properly, you have to do it in a Vedantin concept, in a framework. There's a certain framework. It's not just physical exercises. And then he believes in Aryan theory, Aryan Dravidian divide. I don't believe in that. He doesn't believe in the importance of shastras. And then, if you don't believe in the importance of Shastras, you end up with postmodernism, which is a kind of free for all interpretation, or kind of the Devdutt Patnaik type of things, because people who don't believe in the integrity of Shastras, they can come up with their own improvisations. So I have a lot of problems with our gurus also. And that is not out of disrespect. I'm telling you that I fight for every single guru when they're in trouble. I fight for every guru because I want the guru system as an institution to do well. Whether an individual guru is like this or like that doesn't matter to me. Whether he's my guru, not guru, not does it makes no difference. But as an institution, I want to support them. So I've supported Swami Muktanand. I've supported so many. Yogi Amrit Desai, who's now in Florida, but he was in trouble. I supported him. So I've been there. But I disagree with the same people. I disagree that they have not been able to clarify the message of the Hindu Dharma for the 21st century in a way that is distinct, that is not a case of digestion with into other thought. And so my book, Being Different, gives you so many tables, so many charts in the book. Tables saying this is the dharmic view, this is the Western view, and it gives you what are the contrasts. Many examples I've given you. So this idea of moksha, jannat, and all that is just one example. But like this, more important, because moksha, none of the right now there are 820 people on this call. I don't know if how many of them will achieve moksha. I would doubt that that many will achieve moksha in this life. So, but what is more relevant and more practical is social structure. So our social structure is different, and we have to understand what's about it. Our swadharma, idea of karma, these are here and now. They affect the rashtra. The idea of rashtra we have to understand. I don't think our idea of rashtra is properly understood. In fact, one of the things I'm writing is how the idea of Rashtra as described in RSS literature is not the idea of Rashtra as described in the Vedas. Now, this may surprise you, and I have respect for RSS people. I know most of their leaders. I like them. I think they're good people. They are friends. They're doing good work. But as far as, I mean, Rashtra is the first name of RSS. It's how their name starts. And you would think that they would have a very profound study on Rashtra, but they don't, because they've copied the idea of nation state from the West and called the nation, they've translated, they've done the reverse. They've taken this idea of nation and called it Rashtra, put a Sanskrit word on it, and they feel that the job is done. But actually, Rashtra is a very profound concept. It has a very metaphysical meaning. So I feel that when we want to take back our terms and take back our culture, uh, this is there are so many ideas like this that we need to take control of.
Thank you, Rajivji. Since we are running out of time, I'll conclude this session with your conclusion and a question. That is, I would like you to talk a little bit about the Infinity Foundation and the work that you are doing, especially regarding the point of how do we counter this arguments, which is, I'm again coming back to your book, Indra's Net. The arguments like Hinduism is manufactured, Hinduism does not have any coherence, Hinduism is founded on oppression, and correlating the term seva to West. These are
Yeah,
the things, a little bit of my takeaways from Indra's book, Indra's
yeah,
Net. So with that, I think we can move to the conclusion. It is already 8:55. We only have 5 minutes per your time.
yeah. No,
So
you are a very good questioner. I really feel that this is I'd love to come back and do more. It's just that I planned on an hour because I have in 5 minutes I have another one, in 4 minutes a different conference call starting with my team, my Infinity Foundation team. So just a little bit. I started this foundation when I decided to get out of for-profit business and nothing for to make money, profit, none of that. Uh, Exit everything. Gave my companies to the people who worked and helped me put them together. Gave it to them, and then started the foundation with my own funds. And I've been doing this full time for almost 30 years. So one of the clubs in Clubhouse you can join is called Infinity Foundation. That is one of the clubs. If you follow me, then under my profile, one of the clubs is Infinity Foundation. You can join that, and we are having events there once in a while. These kind of events. So Infinity Foundation is a vehicle for putting out this kind of research that we've been talking about. I have put out 8 very major books, and I have another 20 in the pipeline. We are also doing Swadeshi Indology conferences where we are training other people, other young scholars. We are developing e-learning courses on these books. We now have about, I would say, 10 or more full-time scholars working for us on various projects, and a large number of part-time people who are volunteers and interns. And those of you who are interested can email, and I'll pass it on to the right person. You can write uh, uh, I think it's called volunteer.infinity or something like that at gmail.com. But if you go to the website rajivmalhotra.com and send me a message saying I would like to volunteer and give you a background, I'll forward it to the right people. And that's a way to get involved for anybody who wants to get involved. We are the original pioneer in doing all this. We started long before these things became popular back in the 90s, and we've been. We have not wavered. We are sticking. And now the difference in over 30 years is now there are people like you, so many people like you who were not there before. So there's so many people, getting into similar things, waking up, and we're very happy about that. We're very happy about that, and we will continue our work and collaborate with those who want to help us. So that's my takeaway, my message to everybody. And thank you to the Pathrika people for organizing this and approaching me. And hopefully we will meet again sometime in the near future.
thank you, Rajivji. We'll be definitely approaching you for more discussions on this. There are a lot of questions, but due to the shortage of time, we will move to the conclusion. TG sir, I would love you to conclude this session. TG sir.
Yeah, we had a lovely session, highly, greatly knowledgeable man. We are lucky to have him today. And since it is dot 9 now, let us disperse. I hope everybody is happy. We will wait for the next program. Thank you.
Thank you. Namaste to everybody and Jai Hind.
Thank you, Rajiji. It was an honor having you here, and it was a pleasure. We will be definitely approaching you for more sessions, more enlightening sessions like this due to the shortage of time. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
attending this session.
Thank you. And people, you can follow me on Twitter, Rajiv also.
Rajiji, you drop off.
Yeah, you can follow me right here.
Okay. All right. So Rajiv Jiv's Clubhouse ID and his Foundation, Infinity Foundation, is also on Clubhouse. Please do follow, and RajivMalhotra.com, that is his website. Please do follow, and he has listed his book. Due to the shortage of time, I am not mentioning that all the books here, but his new book on artificial intelligence is currently available on Amazon, as all his books are. So please do subscribe and follow him. So Rajivji, once again, thank you so much, and
Thank
thus
you.
we are concluding this session. Thank you all. Thank you so much,
Thank you, everybody.
Rajivji. Thank you, sir, and namaskaram.
Namaskar. Namaskar.
Rajivji, with your and TG sir permission, I am concluding this room, ending this room.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Shivaratri to all.